Hello, my fellow readers. Today I'm going to be talking about an old series. Like, this is one that is out of print. I picked it up on a whim as I was doing a read of my graphic novel collection at work, not my personal one. It was like due for getting rid of, and I'm like, you know, I've never read it. So I decided to give it a bit of a reprieve, and I checked it out myself. And that series is Lament of the Lamb. This is an old Tokyo Pop publication. So yeah, back before Tokyo Pop had a resurgence in the manga field. This was from their original printing. And it's a 7-volume series that is a vampire story. Back at this time, vampires were huge. Think Vampire Knight. I'm trying to think of some of the other ones. I mean, Hellsing was still popular. Vampire Knight was out. Oh my god. There were a ton. I cannot remember them all at this time, but there was a ton of like vampires everywhere. And so this was one of the ones that Tokyo Pop licensed. This series was a little awkward. I can definitely see this not being like massively picked up or liked. I'll quickly read the synopsis on the back of volume 1, and then I'll just talk more about like why I think it's awkward and probably not like huge, and also you're not really missing anything if you don't get to read Lament of the Lamb. So this is Kazuna Takashiro can't escape the pain of his past. Ever since his mother died, nightmares and visions have been eating away at him. When he finds his long-lost sister, Chizuna, the two discover they share more than just a family name. The siblings are cursed with a disease of the blood, a disease that will turn them into vampires. As they resist accepting their destiny, Kazuna and Chizuna struggle to contain the craving that is the very essence of what they will become. So you read that and you just think, okay, vampire siblings, blah, blah, blah. But there's more to it than that, because Kazuna has been raised by his aunt and uncle, and I think he barely remembered or didn't remember that he even had a sister. And then suddenly Chizuna is like in town and in his life, like she suddenly appears before him and kind of makes a mess out of his life. I mean, I think he started to get vampiric symptoms. He has a best friend that he started to have like dreams of and everything. Female best friend, I should say. And I don't know, like things just start going a mess in his head, and then suddenly he meets Chizuna. And I think he has like vague memories of Chizuna, if I remember, from when they were kids. But I think he was also always told to kind of keep his distance from her. And so I think after he's adopted by his aunt and uncle, it's like, I think he sort of forgot that she even existed, and like nobody talked about it. And then suddenly he meets Chizuna, discovers, yes, this is his sister, and then starts learning about the whole vampiric side, and then realizing that's what he's experiencing are vampiric symptoms, where he's worried he's going to murder his one girl who's a friend, by like viciously drinking her blood. And so doing, with the fear, he ends up forming a bond where his sister where he drinks her blood. And Chizuna has somebody whose blood she drinks. It's all like these twisted relationships. And I think that's part of why people just didn't necessarily like it. There is something very amorphous, bordering on very incestuous with the Kazuna and Chizuna storyline, but also Chizuna's relationship with their father. That, like, especially with the father, nothing is clearly said, but it's like how she'll talk about how she was like in love with him. That's a little, it's a little unsettling and off-putting. And I think maybe that would be part of it. And there's also things like, there's just aren't clear. Like, it's not necessarily well written, like well developed. Yeah, I'm trying to think of like some of the other things. I mean, there's definitely like the doctor who will help Chizuna with the whole blood thing, but also he gives her like medication to contain her symptoms, because she, right from the get-go, she's displaying like that she's very sick and could potentially be dying, much like their mother. There's things that the doctor will say, and he's young, he's not like, I don't know, old mustachioed character, but that he'll say about how he thinks Chizuna is trying to replace her father with Kazuna, but also like where Chizuna feels that she owns Kazuna. Like, if she is replacing her father with Kazuna, she has a right to, because they're family, and that like they, I don't know, it's very like, ugh, messed up. I don't know. And always in the background, the friend who is in love with Kazuna is trying to see him and let him know that she supports him and find out what's going on, because they've been friends for so long, and she's also liked him for so long without necessarily saying anything, that she's really trying to get to the bottom of what's currently happening, because suddenly he's missing school, his personality has abruptly changed. So she's really worried about him. Chizuna doesn't necessarily like that, because again, she feels this ownership over Kazuna, and she knows that Kazuna really desires the friend's blood. But she feels that since she's been making him drink her blood, that again, it's this whole like ownership possession thing. Like, he can't do anything else because she's the one who lets him drink her blood. I don't know. It was just weird. I mean, that being said, it's obviously stuck with me, but not in necessarily a good way. Like, I read this a while back. Not like a while back, but it's been probably a month now since I've read it, and I just hadn't had the time to talk about it. And I still remember it quite well, but I don't know if that's necessarily good, because I didn't like have a really great time reading it. I mean, I was intrigued enough to continue on, but mostly just because the relationships were so disturbing that I wanted to see how they were going to resolve it. And it does have a resolution, obviously, because it ends at 7 volumes. But it wasn't like, you know, the abrupt, the series is canceled. So it did have a full ending. I don't know how I feel about it, but at least we got an ending. Yeah. So, I mean, I'd say if you are at all interested in seeing like the relationship, how everything pans out, and you can find this, go ahead and read this. I mean, always check used bookstores, check your library to see if they have it. Other than that, again, this is out of print, so it's hard. So I can't say rush out there and like look for it, because you may not be able to find it. But yeah, those are my thoughts on Lament of the Lamb. If you'd like to try to find it, go ahead. And that's it for this video. Until next time, bye.